beliefs they aren't reality. They're beliefs. Sometimes they can inform reality. Sometimes they can play out, the way you believe might color the way you see reality, but it's not reality itself, and reality itself is always going to speak for itself.
Yep.
So try to get in touch with that.
Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin, back at it again, your favorite spiritual analysts on all things culturally relevant, helping you to better connect with this divine yet somewhat peculiar reality we all find ourselves in. Well, we are diving into the request bin, and we were asked to do a reaction video from Swami Tadatmananda. I think I got that right. And this video is entitled Finding God Without Faith, a personal reflection based on Advaita Vedanta.
I can't wait. Let's hear what it has to say. Do we need to say more?
Yeah, so we're going to split this into two parts.
Yeah.
This is part one.
Yeah.
And we'll just get into this reaction right away.
All right.
This topic, finding God without faith, is very personal for me. I was raised in a Roman Catholic family, and I went to Mass every Sunday. As a child, I attended a Catholic grade school where we were taught by nuns dressed in flowing black habits. Inside the towering church, during Mass, I was fascinated by the ornate altar, where priests conducted a mysterious ritual that transformed ordinary bread and wine.
Look at that priest's outfit. That is a pimpin' outfit. Like he's got like a full Jesus design on the back,
Yeah.
And I know what he's talking about here because I find that in Byzantine churches. I'm always like, the artwork here is awesome.
Yeah.
Into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. The notes of the church organ vibrated deep inside me, and the melancholy chanting of Latin prayers sometimes moved me to tears. As a child, I was quite devout. I even fantasized about growing up to become a priest. But before long, I felt deeply troubled about my faith. Our school curriculum included a daily religion class in which we had to memorize and recite the official catechism of the church. We used a small book like this one, and it began, "Who made us? God made us. Who is God? God is the supreme being, infinitely perfect, who made all things and keeps them in existence. Why did God make us? God made us to show his goodness and to make us happy with him in heaven. How can we gain the happiness of heaven? To gain the happiness of heaven, we must know God, we must love God, and we must serve God." Several times, I raised my hand in class to ask questions, like, would my Protestant and Jewish friends also be able to go to heaven? The nun scowled at me and said I shouldn't ask such questions, because these teachings simply have to be believed.
Yikes. That's going to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth. And it's amazing because you've talked about this a bit before in many of our other videos, this idea of like asking questions and like, no, we're not going there.
Yeah, you feel disruptive when you're like, well, hang on a second. You get these questions and everybody, it's like interrupting the flow sometimes of a Bible study. And I was that guy. I was that guy in Bible study being like, well, why would God do that? And, anyway, yeah. So I've alluded to that a bunch of times.
They have to be completely accepted without doubt. I wondered back then, why did God give us powerful intellects if we were not supposed to use those intellects in religion class? Well, being scolded by the nun was the beginning of the end for me. Even as a child, I disliked the dogmatism of the church, even though I didn't know then what the word dogmatism meant. I quickly became disenchanted with the church, and by the time I was a teenager, I had developed an allergy to religion, so to speak. Later, when I was still in my 20s, I felt something missing in my life, and that led me to undertake a spiritual quest. I started by reading books on Western philosophy, but I soon shifted to what we called Eastern philosophy, Taoism, Buddhism, and, of course, Hinduism. I was really impressed by the works of Swami Vivekananda, the brilliant disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. That's how I got introduced to Advaita Vedanta. I started to attend classes taught by monks from the Ramakrishna mission. Then, in 1981, I happened to attend a lecture by Swami Dayananda, a lecture that affected me very deeply. Swami Dayananda said, God is not a matter of belief. God is a reality to be known, a truth to be discovered. Hearing those words transformed my thinking. And, as you might already know, Swami Dayananda would soon become my guru. Instead of using the word God, Swami Dayananda generally used the Sanskrit word Ishvara. I later learned that he did this to avoid the enormous confusion associated with the word God. Most people agree that the word God refers to the one supreme being who created the universe. Yet, for Christians, God exists as three divine persons: God the Father, His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit that dwells within. Three persons that are said to be one in essence. For Jews, on the other hand, God is Yahweh, the historical God of Abraham, who gave the 10 Commandments to Moses and delivered the Israelites from slavery. But Muslims declare there is no God other than Allah, the all-merciful and all-powerful, whose prophet is Muhammad. Unlike the followers of those three Western religions, most Buddhists and Jains deny the existence of an almighty supreme being who created the universe. And for Hindus, well, it's a whole lot more complicated. The Hindu tradition accepts many individual gods and goddesses, yet all of them are considered to be forms of Ishvara. In the Rig Veda, the most ancient Hindu scripture, there's a famous but often mistranslated verse that says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. Ishvara is one, who the wise describe in many ways. Even though Ishvara is one, Hindu scriptures describe Ishvara very differently than the one supreme being worshipped by Christians, Jews, and Muslims. You might be surprised to know that a remarkably precise definition of Ishvara can be found in many Vedantic works.
I would just like to point out, this guy, I like the clarity of this guy. I'm able to absorb what he's talking about. Now, this idea of the oneness of God seems to be like a big battle between many faiths and belief systems. They're always like, but when he's talking there, like I see it, like how I find it strange that it's so hard for all the people around the world to find this like neutral place where we can all come to and be like, yeah, God's one. Like Christians believe in a Trinity, but they still believe that God is one at the center of it. Muslims believe that Allah is one. Jews believe that Allah is one. The Hindus have like zillions of representations or aspects of God, like in other like forms of God. But at the end of the day, it's all one thing.
I see people labeling everything. I see everything being labeled. I see everything being categorized. I see people putting something into reality here and then saying, you see this too, right? We're going to call it this.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, there's this process of labeling everything and so much ritual and everything. And I feel like as of late, it's almost like I implore everybody to stop believing in anything. Don't believe in anything. Don't believe in a way of being. Don't believe in as many things as you can not believe. Try that. I implore you.
Yeah.
And
then see what's left.
Right. And I don't expect anybody to look at me, a stranger, and not like project onto me. Why the hell would he say that? And assume all kinds of reasons. I'm saying it because I literally have found some peace from being like, I'm not going to believe anything. I'm not even going to describe the effect of unbelieving things as a way, like, oh, this is, and in doing that, I've found God, or, and in doing that, I've found peace. It's not that. It's just, I think so much, this is going to be something I'm saying for the foreseeable future, probably. So much of suffering comes from believing. So much of suffering comes from believing things are a way.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like, and I understand all the arguments that come up from that. And I understand the defense of how can I communicate it any other way than that? You just go try, give it a try. Try unbelieving something. There are some things that I don't even know if, I'm sure at some point I'll give it a go, but imagine trying to unbelieve in gravity. Like, there's some things that are so core that you believe that you have a hell of a time, and you probably very logically questioning, well, why would you even do that? All I know is that some of the things that I believed for a very long time turned out to be just aspects of a very painful way of looking at life.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, beliefs they aren't reality. They're beliefs. Sometimes they can inform reality. Sometimes they can play out, the way you believe might color the way you see reality, but it's not reality itself, and reality itself is always going to speak for itself.
Yeah.
So try to get in touch with that, and I wouldn't call that God. I wouldn't be like, and then you're left with the true God. I'm like, God's probably the wrong word. I don't know what the word is for that.
You have to go that road in order to experience it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd love to hear this guy's remarks on what I just said.
This definition is incredibly helpful because so much confusion arises when we use words like God or soul or divinity without clearly defining what those terms mean. So a clear, precise definition of Ishvara is crucial, and that's what we'll discuss next. Before we continue, please note that Ishvara is not a him, like God the Father or like Yahweh of the Jews. But grammatically, the Sanskrit word Ishvara happens to be masculine in gender. For this reason, masculine pronouns are used when referring to Ishvara. The precise definition I mentioned before is this: abhinna nimitta upadana karana, the efficient and material cause for the universe that is non-separate from it. This definition might be precise, but it's much too terse and scholarly to be understood without some help. Let's try to unpack those words. First of all, material cause and efficient cause.
Efficient. That's an interesting word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's something about that rings out, because as of recently, that's another thing I was saying. I was like, oh, if I had to write a Bible starting from the beginning, I'd probably say in the beginning there was functionality. It's functional above all else, you know? And sometimes when you just get, you know, when you look at any particular thing, like you look at one part of an engine, the part of it that explodes, you'd be like, it's fucking chaos. Engines are chaos.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's functional in that way. If you take a snapshot of many parts of reality, you'd be like, it's dysfunctional. But and when it all works together,
It's chaotic order.
above all else, it is functional.
Yeah.
Because that's what else could it be? It's doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in that? You know, even an illusory ego is functional. It's getting you to go out and do things and chase things, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I totally. What he's saying, I think, kind of lines up a little bit what you were talking about earlier, in the non-dual sense, and like getting rid of terms. But in order to even have these conversations, we have to introduce terms and labels. So, you know, you're left with a little bit of a conundrum. So, but anyway, keep it going.
Language may need a
Are
software.
philosophical terms used to describe the two main factors necessary for any act of creation. To make a pot like this, the material cause is clay. That simply means clay is the material needed to make this pot. But in addition to clay, a pot maker is also required. The potter is the efficient cause, the maker, the intelligent agent needed to make a pot. To make a table like this, wood is the material cause, and a carpenter is the efficient cause. Obviously, nothing can be created without a suitable material or without a skillful maker. Now, look at this. Potter and clay are two separate factors needed to make a pot. Carpenter and wood are two separate factors needed to make a table. In both,
The most graceful things in reality are things that have no beliefs. The most silly, clunky, odd things in reality are things that carry beliefs. Because it's not, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you can't slap a label on the label maker. You cannot. You can, but it's nonsense. It's like silly, right? I think that there's a grace found in, like, I think you haven't reached the bottom until you've reached a point where you're like, there would never be, there's no way to explain the source of this. It's outside of everything physical. It's, you know, the thing from which all physical things come is so anti-physical. It's almost like there's nothing but physical. That's how mysterious the source would be. What am I trying to get at here? I'm like literally trying to point at something. You know, try
Which
to like...
might be the problem to begin with, because earlier you were even mentioning, you know, like sometimes you just have to like abandon all that. Just kind of sit in it, maybe.
Like, imagine a guy who had like a 6-foot tall hat and a scepter, and he came in and he had some rules for you to follow.
Yeah.
Like, let's all get silent and realize how fucking crazy that is for a second. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, it is natural because it's a function of it. Like, man evolved to dress like a wizard and fucking go around telling people rules. That's like an appropriate step of nature or something, right? But maybe that negates everything I just said even. Maybe just coming to the realization that it is natural. It's natural to dress like a wizard. It's natural, you know? What am I trying to say, man? Help me figure out what
I'm trying to understand some of the stuff you're saying is complex, and it gets lost in these conversations sometimes because they're trying to like go around something. They're trying to describe something that you can't use, there are no symbols, language proper enough used to describe it.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, they're using things to describe it.
You ever met a deeply grounded person, like a no-nonsense fucking person that just seems to, in any situation, cut right to the thing everybody's thinking and say it, and then it's it's all uncomfortable because everybody's playing this game of politeness.
Yeah.
And then the person just says, what the fuck is going on? And everybody laughs because it's, what are we doing? Whenever we discuss religion, whenever we look at this type of stuff, I always kind of get to that place where it's however way you talk about it, it's not it, because it is just what is. You know what I mean? A religion is exactly what it appears to be. Maybe.
No.
Cases, the two factors, the maker and the material, are different from each other. But the definition of Ishvara we're discussing describes him as being both the maker and the material, both the efficient and the material cause for the universe. To make a pot, a potter can dig clay from the ground. But to create the universe, Ishvara can't go to some kind of celestial storehouse for raw materials. Before the universe was created, Ishvara alone existed, nothing else. There was no external source of material. Logically speaking, Ishvara himself has to be the material cause for the universe as well as its efficient cause. How can that be? It's explained by a famous metaphor found in the Mundaka Upanishad, a Vedic scripture that says the universe is like a spider's web. Yatha urnanabihi srajate grinate cha. The universe is like a web that's spun by a spider and later gets consumed by the spider. That's an absolutely brilliant metaphor. Obviously, the spider is the efficient cause, the maker of the web. In spite of its extremely tiny brain, the spider has all the knowledge and power it needs to make a web. In the same way, Ishvara is said to possess all the knowledge and power needed to create the universe. That means Ishvara possesses infinite knowledge and limitless power.
Well, there you have it. It's in many of the monotheistic religions that we look at, there's a clear distinction. I think they would say that no, God is separate. There's a boundary there, and within what he's talking about here, there is no boundary. That God is, it's everything. It's the stuff, even the stuff that it's making. It's as much as it is me. It is the creator. So if I'm saying I was created and there's a creator, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's no boundaries. There's zero boundaries. God's just everything. God is just everything.
And that seems to be a way of talking about it, but is that it? Is talking about it and thinking of it that way, is that what it really is?
Well, no, because if you're talking about it, that's limited in the language and the thought or the idea that you're having in your head. That's why.
But we like to talk.
Yeah, but yeah, we like to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of these traditions point to is that getting an experience of it, you can actually experience a facet of it. And maybe come to some type of a realization of it.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever experienced that. Have you? I don't know if I've ever, I feel like, maybe.
I think,
and I'm always humbled.
I think in some way we probably have.
Right.
I think
yeah.
And maybe we're just not, and I think there's levels to the awareness of that, and, the only thing I guess we could do is keep listening, learning what he's got to say about it.
Unless like what else is there to do? Right?
With that knowledge and power, Ishvara can create an incredibly complex universe, a universe that functions in a perfectly orderly manner. Ishvara's intelligent order ensures that planets continue to orbit their suns, and electrons continue to orbit their nuclei. Ishvara's intelligent order also ensures that you receive the results of deeds you've committed in this life and in past lives. Now, let's return to the spider metaphor. For a web, the spider is not only the efficient cause, the maker, but it's the material cause as well. The spider weaves a web from silky threads produced by its own body. A potter needs clay, but a spider already has the necessary material within itself. In a similar way, Ishvara himself is said to be the source of the fundamental stuff out of which the universe is woven. Ishvara manifests the universe from himself without needing any kind of external material. In this way, Ishvara is both maker and material. Also, when a web gets damaged, the spider who made it will eat the threads and recycle the material to use in making another web. That nicely represents how Ishvara is said to withdraw the universe into himself at the end of a cycle of creation, before making the universe manifest once again in the next cycle. Okay, the spider metaphor is really helpful, but we're not done yet. Our definition of Ishvara describes him as being abhinna, non-separate. That is, non-separate from his creation, from the universe. A spider is obviously separate from its web. A spider can even abandon its web. But Ishvara can never abandon the universe. Why? Because according to the definition, Ishvara is utterly non-separate from the universe, as we'll discuss in just a moment. The spider metaphor is not perfect. As you know, all metaphors have limitations. Metaphors are tools we use to understand things. After hammering in a nail, if you need to tighten a screw, you'll grab a screwdriver. In the same way, after using the spider metaphor, we can use another one, a metaphor found in the scriptures that compares the universe to the dream world that you create each night while you sleep. When you sleep, a dream world,
That was just what I was gonna say, because you get caught up in the metaphor about the spider and the web and the clay and the stuff, and it's not like God's pulling clay off of him, physical things off of him to make the universe. I think what he's doing now is probably better because he's using the dream world. If God is God, I think God can just think it into being. So maybe it's possible that the reality, everything, there is no physical, that it's all just being thought about or processed by God in, which some people might find unsettling, but, again, unless you experience, there's no need to get worked up about it. But the idea that reality is a dream seems like it could be a possibility. People even bring it up in when they're talking about life as a simulation. Elon Musk is, maybe we're in a simulation, but maybe we're just in a God's dream. God's dreaming this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed plausible. Why would God need to actually hammer out materials to make, all right, I need to make a planet here. Here's a physical planet just being dreamt up maybe. But I think he's about to get into that anyway.
Right. The source from which all things come can already manifest things from nothing. So could it not,
Just think about it.
just, I wonder, everything, or, I don't think language could probably suffice for explaining it, but again, we're in the realm of beliefs and stories and thoughts, Sometimes I think it's like, do you accept that there are certain things that could be so painful to you that they would cause you to behave involuntarily?
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
So there are some things that are beyond your control already. That's just a quick figured it out. Yeah, there's some things that make me act beyond my control. Right?
Or vice versa. Positive.
What do you mean?
Positive.
Sure. Maybe you get tickled and laughed or something. Yeah, that's a good way to thing to remember too when you're thinking this way. But I'm saying, what if, like, we want to discuss, we want to point at something. We want to be of help to each other. We want to help ourselves. We want to reduce suffering. We want to get at maybe a feeling we've even had. Maybe we felt a certain way in childhood, and then just through the process of growing, we've become cynical or something like that. And we want to get back to a way of, like, understanding life that is tolerable and doesn't seem so dysfunctional and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's an element of radical acceptance of what is, so that you can address things in a sensible way, or just even an effective way, or just not suffer so much. But at the same time, you're right, man, like sometimes you can become too adverse to, I was really trying to take in what he was saying about the spider, like maybe it is like a spider. Maybe it's just like, and maybe that's true sometimes and then not true at other times. Yeah. Maybe everything's a little bit true. If this thing's infinite after all, maybe some things are temporarily true and then not true anymore.
Yeah, that's a weird way to think about truth.
Yeah.
But also, he did say that the spider metaphor was not perfect and it was limited.
Yep.
He's about to get a little bit deeper into it with the dream world stuff. So maybe there's another level here to this that we can get out of here.
Yeah.
Rises in your mind a world filled with people, clouds, trees, animals, and so on. Then, when you wake up, that dream world fades away. It returns to its source. It returns to you, its creator. For that dream world, you are its creator, its sustainer, and its destroyer. Just like Ishvara, in the form of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, is said to be the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe. More than that, to create a dream world, you are both the maker and the material, the efficient and the material cause. As the efficient cause, you possess all the knowledge and power needed to create the dream world. It's created from your memories and imagination. And further, it is you who determines the laws of nature that govern your dream world. You are the source of its intelligent order. That's why you can fly in your dreams and fall great distances without getting hurt. In the same way, Ishvara is said to determine the laws that govern this universe. Ishvara himself is the source of the intelligent order that regulates the world. For your dream world, not only are you its maker, the efficient cause, but you are its material cause as well. The trees and houses in your dreams are not made of wood, nor are the people in your dreams made of flesh and bones.
Just on the topic of dreams, I had a very bizarre thing happen, and I don't even know if something feels risky about this, but I'm going to explain a dream I have. I wonder if there'll be people that can interpret it. I had a dream that I was being pulled into space by either some kind of deity or an alien. It was like this just powerful thing was rocketing me into space, dragging me for the purpose of getting me up there, consuming me, and then making me like an appendage on it or something like that, right? Yeah. Weird. in the ship as I was because I was like part of this thing and I was running around, I remember looking in a window at my reflection and being like, is this real? Is this real? This feels real. This is real. And then waking up and it wasn't real. Yeah. It felt so real in a dream.
Yeah.
And I was like certain at the time of it, despite how crazy that is, I was certain I was pretty damn sure it was real.
Yeah.
To the point where I was asking myself, like, am I dreaming?
And how about like with dreams? Talk about like one of the most, like, what a hint like reality has granted us to be like, look at this wacky thing that you do when you go to bed at night, everyone. Like, it's, to me, it doesn't seem too far off from what this guy is saying and the dream world and the idea of God, like manifesting all this stuff and the same ability. You are the dream, you manifest it, and you're like the destroyer of the dream. Imagine God just decided to wake up one day. Think about your reality and God just going like, everything gone, right in a second.
What's that one quote about the guy who's meditating in a garden and he falls asleep and then he dreams he's a butterfly and then
I'm not going to remember this quote.
And then he comes back and then he's like, was he the butterfly dreaming he was a monk or the monk dreaming it was a butterfly? Like, which is it, Because sometimes dreams are super, what is it called? Vivid. Yeah. Like sometimes you're like, I was pretty sure that was a dream, maybe, but sometimes you're like that one I said, I was like freaking out. I didn't know if I was dreaming or not.
Man, I've been like woken up and been like happy by dreams, sad by dreams, disturbed by dreams. Like I've had like every type of dream you can have. I've been like, oh my God, thank God it was a dream. Look at it was a dream.
Look at how real
and then also been like, oh, I had to wake up. It was like, I was in the best dream ever.
Yeah.
Time to go to work. But anyway, we're gonna let this point end, and then he's got another 10 minutes of another point that he's gonna get into, and we'll do our
part
third video, or that on our second video.
What are they made of? They're made of you, of your own mind stuff, so to speak. In the same way, everything in the universe is said to be a manifestation of Ishvara. The universe is therefore made of Ishvara. The Chandogya Upanishad says quite boldly, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this, the entire cosmos, is nothing but Brahman, nothing but Ishvara. My own guru often reiterated this teaching. He said, the truth is not that there is one God, but rather that there is only God. Wow, what an amazing teaching.
All right, so that ends part one. We're going to do a second part. It's pretty loaded. Do you look like there's something else you want to add?
I was just going to say, there's a clip of Osho one time where he says something like, thank God there's no God. And there is something freeing about that. There is something sort of unshackling about that. Like there is no God, and thank God there is no God. You know what I mean? But what he's pointing to here is that it's God. It is God. It is
the thing that
seems to be the thing that he's
the thing that is happening. This like right now.
Right, but the problem is depending on how you grew up. God's got a loaded. That's a loaded. What if there was a different word for it? It's like forget the word God. Forget that word.
Yeah.
What do you got left?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Well, we'll end it. We'll see you guys in part 2. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and everyone. Until next time,
Stay spiritual.